It's Monday night, and you know what that means. Jersey First TV proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And yes, I am New Jersey's premier, now 7-time award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine for 2020, 2021, and now in 2022, and certainly New Jersey's most beloved Hispanic conservative. Yes, it's me, ladies and gentlemen, Fernando Uribe. Hope we had a wonderful weekend. I'm very excited. Again, my New York Yankees taking 2 out of 3. That magic number, again, down to 17. So bragging about my Yankees a little bit. Hope you all had, again, a wonderful beginning to your September. Better weather for sure, folks. A week ago at this time, it was Labor Day. I was out in Las Vegas with an average of 107 degrees every day. So the pool parties, meeting some nice people, partying, certainly was quite hellacious, but certainly those are not the temperatures here in the Garden State. So it's good to be back. Happy September to all of you. And so I want to thank you all for joining from wherever and however you may be doing so right now on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, and also on LinkedIn. So again, if you just joined us right now, go. Sharing is caring. Click that share button. It takes 2 seconds, folks, to do so and show your support for arguably the best weekly show in New Jersey politics. It's always right here, ladies and gentlemen. The best analysis and commentary. You can always rely on Real Talk with Jersey First TV. Again, a special shout out to all of you who make the success of this show possible. Okay, it's all organic traffic, not just a couple dozen views or a couple hundred views like some other clowns that we have in the liberal media cesspool. Establishment here in New Jersey. But we're talking about thousands and thousands of views. So it just gets to a point, folks, where I'm running out of room in this house when it comes to awards. Because not just one, not just two, not just three, not just four, not just five, not just six, but now, ladies and gentlemen, yes, 7. And a special thank you. And I know it might be hard to believe because some people might be like, wait a minute, how is it possible? But yes, a special thank you to U.S. Representative Josh Gottheimer for acknowledging myself and other prominent Hispanic journalists throughout New Jersey as we are about to begin Hispanic Heritage Month. So a shout out to Representative Gottheimer, who we may not always see eye to eye ideologically, but by his own words, I'm a conservative that you can watch and listen to every single week in the New Jersey media. So that says a lot, folks, because many people on the left don't like me, and why should they? I come at you with facts and not feelings, and it doesn't rub a lot of people on the left the right way. But again, in any event, folks, I want to thank you for joining us here, and certainly to all of the very mediocre journalists out there. You're over there continuing to produce mediocre journalism. I'm over here winning awards. We're not the same. And certainly, ladies and gentlemen, the other part of the equation, what makes the show so successful, is the outstanding and exclusive guest that I bring you every single week here on the program. And this week is no exception. She is a very, very popular and very effective Republican strategist, fellow Yankee fan, fellow member of the Evil Empire. And yes, unfortunately, along with me, a member of Cowboys Nation, not very happy this morning after last night, but she's a great conservative and a great lady in her own right. Folks, she is Jeanette Hoffman. Join us here this week on Real Talk. How are you, Jeanette?
Hello. Thanks for having me, Fernando. I like how you led off with the Yankees and how they're doing and not our Cowboys, because it was a sad night last night, let's face it.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like, again, no disrespect to Josh. I know Josh is probably hopefully he's not pulling a hamstring from all the cartwheels he's doing in the house. But it seems like Giant fans are, I don't know, it seems like the Ring of Honor, like they're waiting to put the ring, like, what's his name? Bobby Sable? I don't know what his name is, but it seems like they want to put the coach in the Ring of Honor already after one win. It's like
one win. Well, that's how low their bar is for.
I mean, the last time I think they won an opening
game, and it's like they're ready to throw a guy up the parade already. It's ridiculous.
I think the last time they won an opening day, I think Obama was in office. That's how long ago it was. I don't know. It's crazy. But certainly, hey, listen, let's not overreact. It's only week 1. We know Prescott's out for 8 weeks. We'll see what happens. It's a long season, as we know in the NFL. But it's always long in politics, Jeanette. And we know here in New Jersey, certainly less than 2 months to go. The president, I would argue, had perhaps the most divisive speech I've ever seen of a sitting U.S. For a guy that ran on uniting the country, because it's so polarizing and we're so divided, I can't remember a sitting United States president more divisive last week. As I was getting ready for dinner in my hotel in Las Vegas, I'm watching Sleepy Joe with he looked like the emperor from Star Wars, Jeanette.
Right. I don't know who created that red backdrop for him or what his communications team, I'm a communications consultant. I think that speech gets an F. It was so divisive, Fernando. I mean, he basically called half the country, anybody who was a Trump supporter or voted for Trump, a semi-fascist. I think it was really despicable. This is not what our country needs right now. Our country's hurting. We need someone who's going to unite the country. And President Biden, that's what he basically campaigned on, and he has not lived up to that at all. It was really disappointing for me. And now, tomorrow he's going to sign this disastrous Inflation Reduction Act, which is ironic and a misnomer because it's only going to increase inflation. It's only going to make things more expensive because our liberal government is going to spend more money than we're taking in right now. And our Democratic members of Congress, they said, we're not going to support anything that doesn't repeal SALT. And what did they do? They're supporting this. It's unfortunate.
And it's funny because, it's interesting whether it's like clueless journalists in New Jersey, Jeanette, or members of the left, all these activists in New Jersey, or even some members of both the Senate and the House, where, they've gone on cable television for months now. Even the president, even his press secretary saying, well, we're not in a recession or we're not suffering through inflation. Well, wait a minute. My PhD's on economics, but you don't need one to know that 2 consecutive periods of no economic growth is a recession. So that's the first thing that the president and his minions get wrong. And secondly, if there's no such thing as inflation right now, then why is the president pressuring both chambers of Congress to pass the Inflation Reduction? It just seems like, are people that stupid when they're falling for this mountain of manure? It's mind-boggling to me, Jeanette.
Well, they're treating people like they're stupid, but I don't think American voters are stupid. They go to the grocery store. I went to the grocery store the other day, and every day I'm shocked at the prices. It's ridiculous. It's inflation is a tax because you're spending more money and you're getting less. And that money is because of the government. The government has created this inflation by just spending more money. And the American people are feeling it. They're not stupid. And I think President Biden thinks we are. I think it was like 240 economists wrote in a letter that this Inflation Reduction Act would not reduce inflation. They sent it to Congress. Congress passed it anyway.
It's funny. I mean, this is, there are members of the president's party that A, don't know about economics, B, clearly failed high school biology. I mean, in my opinion, they claim to know about science when it suits them. It's really astounding to me, Jeanette, because when we talk about, again, less than 2 months to go, I've talked about it with other guests, both on the right and on the left, where here in New Jersey, it's a very interesting state where I live in Hudson County, it's pretty much Congressional District 8. Rob Menendez Jr. is going to succeed Albio Sierras, the son of the senior United States Senator, Robert Menendez Sr. He's a pretty sure lock to win up here by me. A little north of me in Bergen County, Representative Josh Gottheimer, I think will easily win. It might be close again like it was in 2020, but I think he's going to win again. He's got a good apparatus in Bergen County, along Warren, I believe Sussex County, where that part of the district kind of gravitates to. And even, west of him or south of him, you got Bill Pascrell, who somehow, again, continues to keep winning races. If anyone exemplifies the prototype of a career politician, it's Bill Pascrell and even Donald Payne Jr. So those 4 seats are pretty safe. But I would argue that Republicans, and even though sometimes they can trip over their own feet sometimes, there are some winnable seats a little bit central Jersey and in South Jersey. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. And look, the way they redistricted the state and the map and the congressional map, Josh Gottheimer's district got a little safer. Mikey Sherrill's district got a little safer. But Tom Malinowski's district did not. And, Tom Kean, who's the Republican candidate who challenged him 2 years ago, he lost by only, a handful of votes. It was in recount for a long time. And that district is arguably more Republican. It has more Republican voters than it has Democratic voters. So I think it's Tom Kean's seat to lose right now. I think Tom Malinowski's running scared. He had some ethics probe because of some things that he did during the pandemic and profiteering off of some stocks, that benefited him, that he had some inside information about. So, I think that's going to be a really good shot for Republicans to pick up that seat in that central New Jersey area. And then I think, that Burlington County, South Jersey, Ocean County area, CD3, Congressman Andy Kim, he's a Democrat. I've always thought he was vulnerable. He took that seat from, Remind me. Who was?
I'm drawing a blank as well.
I'm drawing a blank, and it's going to come back to me, Tom, and I forget his name, his last name. It's like I'm having a hiccup right now. But that was a Republican seat. We lost it, but I think it's very gettable right now, especially if you look at the performance of how the legislature did and how Governor Murphy did so poorly. Republicans really did well last year. So I really think that Bob Healey's running a great campaign. I mean, that guy is everywhere. He's a young, dynamic, enthusiastic candidate. He's a yoga instructor. He's out everywhere. He's got a young baby. He's doing town halls in every town. You don't really see Andy Kim out that much. So, arguably that district is a little safer for Democrats because they made it that way. But I still think it's a good shot for Republicans to pick it up.
I'm with you. And folks, if you're just joining us right now, it's 6:10 here on the East Coast. And my guest this week here on Real Talk, as we usher in the month of September, she is Republican strategist and a fellow member of Cowboys Nation, Jeanette Hoffman, here joining us on Jersey First TV. Jeanette, I had Chris Russell on, the campaign manager for Bob Healey, on a few months back. And I know that, I think Chris had a lot of introspective feelings about what happened last year. Running Jack Chiarelli's campaign again. I was the only journalist in New Jersey that called that race as close as it was, and everybody laughed at me. And I still have a lot of dinners coming my way that I'm going to collect, probably at the league coming up in November. But I said, listen, the governor's not that popular. There are pockets of the state where he really, really screwed over because of the shutdowns and not governing, like I would argue, the way that Ron DeSantis did in Florida, the way Greg Abbott did in Texas. Governors that got it right. I'm sick and tired of people on the left in New Jersey making excuses for either, Andrew Cuomo at the time and now Kathy Hochul, or the Connecticut governor, or the Pennsylvania governor, or even Governor Murphy. Blue governors got it wrong. It's as simple as that. They don't believe in science when it suits them, but those red governors got it right. But I think it was those factors, and the fact that, again, whether it was about curriculum, about affordability, I knew that Republicans were going to make some gains in the legislature, and Jack was going to give him a run for his money. Now, again, Democrats always have this advantage. They have 1.5 million more registered voters. They're counting machines, not the devices themselves, but the apparatuses. The parties really mobilize well. They register voters. So I say, hey, it's because of these variables that I think the governor will win by 2 or 3 points. And sure enough, I was right. When everyone was expecting a blowout, I said, no. And I think even Chris admitted that there are probably some things he could have done better during that race. I don't believe he's going to make that same mistake twice. I think he's really kind of putting all his chips into the middle of the table when it comes to Bob Healey.
Yeah, I think he is. I mean, listen, I think Democrats always have that. In New Jersey, they got the registration advantage, right? It's like 1 million more Democratic voters.
Yeah.
But I should say the state committee in New Jersey under Tom Szymanski has done a great job of voter registration in the past year. We've outpaced the Democrats in registering more Republicans than they have Democrats. So I think that is a great sign, number one. Number two, we got to get better at the mechanics of vote by mail. I was one of the people on election night on News 12 when the votes were coming in, and they looked so good for Jack. I mean, we were winning everything. But when those vote by mail numbers came in, the Democrats they clean up on it every time. So you got to tip your hat to them. They do it.
It sounds. I've heard that song before. I don't know. I've heard that song before about middle of the night vote by mail. I've heard that somewhere. But continue. I'm sorry.
But we got to beat them at their own game on that if we want to really win these races. So the mechanics of voter registration, we're getting better at that. We're registering more voters to be Republican in New Jersey. I think that's fantastic. We have the message. Democrats have not been serving parents well. They haven't been serving businesses well. And I think people were fed up last year. I think that's why you saw so many independents and unaffiliateds come out and vote Republican. But I think Chris gets it, and I think you're right. I don't think he's going to make that mistake with Bob Healey, and I don't think he made many mistakes with Jack. I think Jack ran a really great campaign, but there's just so many structural advantages for Democrats in New Jersey.
No, he certainly did. Again, and one thing that really bothered me last November, and Republicans can't afford this, especially in New Jersey or even nationally. Last November, Jeanette, only 38% of Republicans came out to vote. If even just 10% more come out to vote, we're probably talking about Governor Chiarelli right now. And I think this is where, and again, I don't have a dog in the fight because I'm not out here auditioning for a job. I'm good. I work in academia. I work in journalism. I'm good. I'm not trying to get a job with the NJGOP. but they need to do a better job this year about getting people energized to go vote. There's a lot on the checklist to run down about why Democrats in the in the federal legislature, in Congress, in the House and Senate have not been doing a good job. I think it's, again, I don't want to pick on Bob Hugin. I've done that a lot, and I know it's rubbed some people the wrong way. I'm not doing it to be malicious. I have to be honest here. They need to do a better job with less than 2 months to go about knocking on doors. And I know they're doing that in CD7 and in other districts in Central and South Jersey. They really got to get the vote out, Jeanette. Again, 38% of Republicans came out to vote last November. Again, just 10% more. We're talking about a different governor in Trenton. And I think that I'm hoping that the NJGOP learns their lesson here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the voter turnout is everything. And the Democrats know that too. And, a lot of Democrats actually stayed home. So if we had more of our people come out, it really would have made the difference. And I think a lot of, listen, Governor Murphy's core constituency is not happy with him right now. He's environmentalists, the unions, a lot of people are kind of fed up with the minority community. So that hurt him last year. Let's see if it's going to translate into these congressional races. If some of the core Democratic constituencies are not happy right now, we'll see. I'm not sure. But, the other issue is the reproductive rights issue. That comes out in the Democrats' favor in turnout. I think if you're voting on abortion, your mind's already been made up and that's already big. But it might spur more Democrats to come out.
Listen, I think just like the speech last week, that very divisive speech by the president, I think that might just get Republicans really galvanized to come out. And even independents who look at that speech by the president, again, having Marines in the background, that red background. I mean, it looked like Darth Sidious. For all you Star Wars fans, it looked like the Emperor there with his hands up. I mean, if that was not an angry, vengeful graphic there, I don't know what is, Jeanette. I mean, I think that should galvanize people who are conservatives and Republicans too, I would argue. Let's stay in New Jersey here for a second. You talk about, obviously, last year, parents were galvanized. And I really want to pick your brain about this because I know in your household you have multiple children.
Many children.
I know you and Josh obviously are two different operatives, right? One's a Democratic operative, one's a Republican operative. We'll talk about that dynamic later. But your parents, and I'm one of the few journalists here in New Jersey that's been talking about a lot of the hoopla when it comes to this curriculum that a lot of parents are concerned about as it pertains to LGBTQ, demographics in the population. Let me be very clear because it's funny how people on the left in New Jersey have a party in their pants or go crazy about, take things out of context. When it comes to learning about LGBTQ history, it's no different than learning about Women's History Month or Black History Month or, again, Hispanic Heritage Month. I don't have an issue with that. You want to learn about every gay person in the history of the planet? God bless you. Go ahead. But my issue is that, I work in education, Jeanette. I know the liberties that some teachers can take in some school districts, whether it's the People's Republic of Montclair, right, where the president of the NGA is also the mayor. Talk about how that isn't a conflict of interest. I mean, really. But I know teachers can take liberties with lesson plans and curriculum. If some school districts want to be a little cavalier about it, some parents have every right to complain. Remember, it's homeowners like you, me, Josh, our property taxes from our homes that we own pay the school districts. You should have it. I don't have any kids that I know of, but if I had a child, I'd like to know what my local Board of Ed is doing when it comes to this curriculum. Because again, you want to learn about gay people, great. Yeah. But should a 5-6-year-old be learning about transgenderism or harm, whatever? No, I'm sorry. When I was 5-6 years old.
I mean, did you see some of those like sample lessons plans that came out?
Yep.
It was ridiculous. I mean, teaching like 7-year-olds, like, oh, if you have girl parts, you may be a girl, but you may not feel like a girl, so you could be a boy. Like, that is just crazy and confusing to kids. Like, I'm very inclusive in my family, and we embrace everyone, but you can't talk to first graders like that. That's just very confusing to them. And then the other thing that they talked about was like talking to kids in their middle school years about hormone blockers. I'm sorry, that's just not acceptable.
I mean, Jeanette, this is the thing, Jeanette, and I'll let you finish. I'm sorry, but what drives me crazy again is this premise that, listen, kids are impressionable. Okay, when I was 5 years old, I still believed in the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus, and kids are impressionable. And the idea that some teachers and some school districts might take liberties with curriculum, I think is wrong. And I mean, I don't want to be too invasive here, but again, you have sort of a very diverse household in where you live. Again, you have, I'm assuming your husband maybe leans a little left. Again, forget about what he does for a living, but maybe he leans left a little bit. I mean, not to be overly invasive, but have you and Josh had any talks about what curriculum means? And as parents, where do you stand, or what do you find offensive, or what do you object to?
I think we as parents, like from the right and from the left, like can agree that there just needs to be transparency, right? Parents need to know this, and nobody knew about this, Fernando. I mean, this was developed by the New Jersey State Board of Education during the pandemic lockdown. Mm-hmm. No one had parents had no input. And then all of a sudden it was just released to, all the school boards in the state. I think some school boards got it right, though, like Middletown, New Jersey, which isn't too far from me. Now they're doing an opt-in program. Like if you want to be part of this program, the parents can see what the curriculum is, and then they can opt in, right? So your child's not excluded from it if they opt out, because opting out is like, what are you going to sit and stare at the wall if you opt out, right? What's the alternative? Opting in is, here's the program, here's what it is. You can choose to join it, or you can do another class. Like it's almost like an elective. I think that's a much better way to handle it. But I think like everyone, as a parent, you need to know what your child is being taught, and you need to have input. That's just basic property taxpayer parent rights. And I think parental rights is becoming a huge theme throughout all of the local campaigns, through the school board campaigns, because, during the lockdown, parents didn't even have the right to send their kids to get a decent education. Kids have backslid so much if you look at test scores. Parents didn't have the right to, get their kids without a mask in school. I'm sorry, but the mask mandate hurt a lot of kids who are just learning to talk, who are learning to read, who are learning to make friendships and play with children. So there's a lot there, but I think the parental rights movement is important. And I think you're going to be hearing a lot more about it in these campaigns in months to come.
Oh, absolutely. Not just in New Jersey, but I would say nationally, right? Obviously, every House seat is up for grabs. We have a good amount of Senate seats. And it's interesting because, again, as an educator in U.S. history, it's important to know one's history. And certainly every election cycle, every midterm, predominantly speaking, the opposing party tends to win the House. There's been maybe a handful of instances where that hasn't happened. Two that come to mind are 2002 under President George W. Bush, where Republicans actually held the House and actually kept it and added seats. Same thing in 1934 under President FDR. Predominantly, again, every midterm, the opposing party wins the House. So believe me, right. I'm hoping on January 1st that I don't have to hear the words Speaker Nancy Pelosi anymore. I'd rather much see the words Speaker, Kevin McCarthy on, even though I have my issues with Kevin McCarthy. I'd much rather see him sitting in the House speakership than Nancy Pelosi. So Republicans have a real good chance, I think, Jeanette, to make a statement here. Getting back to your points about the president, I mean, kitchen table issues is what matter. And I talk about, because I'm the only journalist talking about it. Nobody at Insider NJ does it. Nobody at NJ Spotlight News, especially Star Ledger or NJ.com. Nobody's talking about kitchen table issues that matter. I don't care how this sounds. I don't care about woke nonsense. I don't care about pronouns. I don't care about bathrooms. I don't care about this far left stuff where the statues trigger me and this triggers me, and we need a statue of this, and we need a statue of this career criminal up. And I don't care about that. Kitchen table issues is what matters. Can families afford? The summer's over. Can families afford to go apple picking? Can they? Yeah, and gas has gone down, but it should have never been this high to begin with.
But so it's $3.80 a gallon instead of $4.80 a gallon. Guess what? In 2019, it was $2.20 a gallon. So I mean,
listen, I say it all the time. What I'd burn a Cowboys jersey right now for $2 gas and mean tweets. It's as simple as that.
Well, don't burn your Cowboys jersey.
Well, of course. I mean, that's how desperate I'd be right now. I would give anything for mean tweets and $2 gas. But it's funny to me, though, Jeanette, when we talk about kitchen table issues, I think at the end of the day, that's what's going to govern this election cycle more so. I mean, just as a continuation of last November, here in New Jersey, it's the least affordable state in the country. These polls I've seen, or these studies about New Jersey being a desirable place to live, like according to who? Stevie Wonder? Like who's deciding this?
Governor Murphy, Tammy Murphy, right? John
And it's
Ford, I mean, millionaires, right? I mean, it is nice when you have a ton of money, but it's getting ridiculously expensive, and it's not getting any better. And I think Democrats are making it worse. And there's a complete apathy among some of our elected officials to what people are going through and these kitchen table issues. This Inflation Reduction Act, I keep going back to it because the president's going to sign it tomorrow and he's going to take all this credit, but he's addressing absolutely nothing. There's no tax relief in this. There's absolutely no relief from inflation. There are 87,000 new IRS agents to come after middle class and businesses, Fernando. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
It's amazing to me. I mean, two things. I mean, aside from it being signed into law tomorrow, as you mentioned, two other things that concern me. Number one is, can someone wake up Joe on time so he gets there to sign it? Number one, because who knows if he's asleep during the day, who knows? And secondly, please keep all microphones away from Kamala Harris. The last thing I need is to hear that hyena, nya, 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 with every single round.
They've been keeping her at arm's length lately. Have you noticed that?
I mean, why not? I mean, she's a disaster. I mean, Jesus, I would trust her to. It's funny. She reminds me of how easy it is to get a law degree. It really is. I mean, people like her remind me, folks, getting a law degree must not be that difficult. You got people like Kamala Harris and, John Kerry and all these sort of Democratic establishment people, Jeanette, that I don't know. I mean, maybe they're giving them away. Listen, maybe I should go to law school too. Jeanette, let's get back to sort of New Jersey, but on a more statewide level. Obviously, the midterms will come and go in less than 2 months. And before you know it, we'll have a little bit of a break. We'll go to the league. We'll party. We'll all get drunk and, whatever, BS with each other. But then, 2023 is right here and it's back to work. It's back to the drawing board. It's legislative races in New Jersey. And I would argue that Republicans made a lot of strides last November. I believe electing 7 new women to the assembly, which I was very happy about.
Yeah.
We got to see State Senate President do nothing, Steve Sweeney, get the boot. And Ed Durr get elected. And again, one of the biggest upsets that I can recall in my adult life at a legislative level. So shout out to Steve Cush, the Cushster, who, again, shocked the world, as they say, with that race. Do you feel confident that Republicans can make some gains next year? Again, we know certain areas are very blue. The cities, sort of the cesspools, the blank holes, as I like to call them, they stay relatively blue in those districts. But do you feel Republicans can make some gains in the assembly and in the state Senate next year?
Yeah, I honestly really do. Look, it's always hard in New Jersey. I'll preface it by saying that. We talked about the mechanics. We talked about the vote margins being better for Democrats. But I really do think that they can capitalize on this. Murphy's not going anywhere. He's not doing anything to make the state better. And neither are the Democratic lawmakers. They talk about affordability and fairness and things like that. Do you see anything getting fairer or more affordable here in New Jersey? No. They're not addressing property taxes at all. They're not addressing
the country. The highest in the country, by the way, at $9,219, but the average in New Jersey, that's the highest in the country.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, we don't know yet who's running, right? Candidate recruitment is really important. I think the Assembly especially did a great job of recruiting women. We had a historic class of Republican Assembly lawmakers come in. And I think they're all, I was with a bunch of them yesterday in Colts Neck. And I think they're all just really strong fighters. They're really smart. They're not afraid to stand up in session and challenge things. And they get talked down to and mansplained all the time, and they don't care. I mean, they're going to continue fighting. They're going to continue fighting for their constituents. So I think we have a good shot, especially in the Assembly, of picking up some seats. I know a lot of people talk about taking back the legislature next year. Redistricting, I think the redistricting team on the Republican side did a great job. So, fingers crossed, but I like our chances.
I certainly do as well. And I think, again, it's going to be up to Bob Hugan, and hopefully if there are some wins in less than 2 months, and you can build off that momentum, just like last November, where, again, Republicans made gains as well. Jeanette, we'll get back to politics in a minute, but something that is political, and I have to ask you because, I've dated every type of woman under the sun, anarchists, socialists, atheists, Republicans, Democrats, progressives, and I don't know, I'm not saying politics governs my life per se, but I got to say, sometimes it's hard. A text message can be left unread for a while. Phones can be hung up on each other. Sometimes you might end up sleeping on the couch which has happened to me. But the point is that, politics becomes a sort of a very divisive issue in families. But in your dynamic, for example, I mean, for years and decades, we've looked at couples like Mary Magdalene and James Carville, two diametrically polar opposites politically, party registration-wise. And again, they do the same thing. They're both operatives. They work on campaigns. They're both strategy. Again, I'm not trying to blow up anyone's spot here, but
Mary Magdalene. Yeah.
Mary Magdalene, excuse me, Mary Magdalene. And, your husband, Joshua Henney is a very prominent Democratic strategist, like you're a very prominent Republican strategist. How does that work? I mean, does Josh sleep on the sofa sometimes? Do you hang up? I mean, how does, again, I'm not trying to be petty here because it's kind of a funny dynamic, but, married couples, you have to kind of agree on a lot of things, parenting, budgets in the house, food shopping. Yeah. Sometimes politics becomes a very divisive dynamic in a household. How does it work with two parents as two operatives?
Well, so that's the thing. We do agree on like the core values, like the family, budgets, like all those kind of things that bring us together. Look, we met through politics and we both have a love of politics and we know a lot of the same people and have a lot of the same friendships and relationships.
Sure.
We don't agree on, how to get things done per se. We want to make the world and the state a better place. We don't necessarily agree about how to get there sometimes. Are there times where we both have to just like walk away and say like, all right, we just got to leave it there. We can't, agree to disagree on that because we're never going to resolve this. And it gets heated sometimes.
Sure.
We make it work. And I think there are more, like we're more of a high profile Republican couple because we work in politics, but I think there's like more mixed marriages like that. But I think, what's more important is that he's a Giants fan and I'm a Cowboys fan. Yeah. He's a Mets fan and I'm a Yankees fan. So, I mean, if we can make that work, then we can, make the politics work.
I mean, again, you know what? Listen, Josh must be having the time of his life. His Mets are finally relevant for the first time in forever. The Giants are relevant after one. Again, get the parade route ready down Broadway because, that's it. 1-0. That's it. Get the parade ready. Get the parade because it seems
let him float for a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Again, listen, Saquon Barkley, he's going to have his number retired tomorrow, the Ring of Honor, and it's crazy. But it's interesting because you mentioned sports and politics, and they sometimes go hand in hand. How does it work with your kids? I mean, because it's interesting. Forget about politics, but just sports. Like, how's that funny dynamic?
So my 4-year-old, like, is a girl, and she just wants to do whatever I do. So she likes the Yankees. Okay. And so my 5-year-old son likes the Mets. My older daughter doesn't really care. And then like my 17-year-old likes the Yankees. But he's, he has his own sports opinion. Mostly they kind of like the Giants. My 4-year-old daughter doesn't really know what she wants to do. So he's begging me not to make her a Cowboys fan.
Oh, of course. And it's actually kind of funny. You'll laugh at this dynamic because my family rolls their eyes all the time. For as long as I can remember, every woman I've dated for more than a decade now, one of the non-negotiable things is you have to be a Cowboy fan. Like when you date me, you're a Cowboy fan. I don't care if your great-great-grandfather was an offensive lineman for the Bears. No, like you're wearing Cowboy gear effective immediately. And it's kind of funny because my parents and family laugh, goes, you are so tyrannical. For a guy who's such a conservative and is all about freedom, you are a tyrant with every woman you date because they got to wear Cowboy gear during the season. But hey, that's one of those things. Yep. You know what? Hey, it's not negotiable. You don't have to like the same food. You don't have to like my TV shows. You don't have to like WWE, but you like the Cowboys and Rutgers basketball.
We all have our things.
Yeah. And you got to like Rutgers basketball. Otherwise, it's going to be a long dating period. But Jeanette, getting back to politics here, and again, it's refreshing to hear that two very high-profile people like yourselves, again, a very high-profile couple, you work in politics, they're able to sort of, again, smooth this out because politics, I would argue, has become excessively tribal in the last 15 years. And I attribute that to the rise of social media, again, the creation of Facebook, YouTube around the same time, 2005, Twitter in 2008, Instagram in 2011, Snapchat, TikTok. It just seems like now more than ever, politics is tribalism on steroids. Is that fair to say?
I absolutely agree. I think social media has just made us more divided. We don't talk to each other. We don't try and find different opinions. We follow the people we agree with. We fight with the people we don't. Nobody's changing anyone's mind on social media, unfortunately. And
No,
Twitter
they're
is
not.
the worst, I think.
No,
Twitter
they're
is
not. Yeah, the people are either getting unfriended or blocked, or it's really tragic. It's really, really tragic, especially like, and I love to laugh at this because as a conservative, when I come to the argument, I just don't come as a journalist. I come as an academic. I come at you with policy. And if you follow my social media, what's that?
You bring the facts.
Yeah, I don't bring the feelings out there. And it's funny how many on the left claim to be the most tolerant people, but they're tolerant of what they like, not tolerant altogether. I think we have to make that distinction, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's hard to get into debates with people who just speak with emotion and not with fact, because they don't want to hear it. They just want to come from what they think is right, and they don't want to hear a difference of opinion. A lot of them come with their own personal bias, which is unfortunate. And you're not going to make any progress with a person like that. And on policy issues, you're not going to bring the country together like that.
You're absolutely right. Before I let you go, Jeanette, folks, it's 6:35 here on the East Coast. We're about to wrap up here with prominent Republican strategist Jeanette Hoffman here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. I watch a lot of TV during the pandemic, and even before that, I love to binge watch shows going back years, The West Wing to everything, even House of Cards. I don't know, Jeanette. The life of an operative seems pretty glamorous according to all these binge-worthy shows, but I'm pretty certain it's not as glamorous as it's paying out to be, right?
No, it's not, Fernando. So listen, I do mostly public affairs campaigns right now, and I do just dabble in some political campaigns from now and then. But when I was a political operative, when I was on campaigns, it was pretty brutal. I mean, you're working like 12-hour days. You're eating nothing but pizza. You're not looking that great most of the time. I mean, you're not as stylish as those on House of Cards or The West Wing. I love watching it. I love binge watching it, but it's a little bit detached from reality. Fair enough.
Now, you say you're working in public affairs currently, so you're not working on any campaigns right now?
Not political, not for candidates right now. I'm doing some public affairs campaigns.
Not sure if you're at liberty to sort of discuss what you're working on, but in terms of public affairs, any initiatives you care to talk about tonight that really stand out for you?
Well, sure. One of the ones that I'm working on, and I just put out a press release today, is this initiative called Smart Heat New Jersey. A lot of people don't know it, but Governor Murphy has this plan in his energy master plan to electrify everything in New Jersey. And what that means is, some of us heat our homes with natural gas right now. And by 2050, Governor Murphy wants to end that. So everything would be all electricity. They want to just basically ban all fossil fuels, natural gas, even though it's clean and it's inexpensive, and change your entire home and retrofit your home with electric heat, electric cooking. You couldn't have a gas grill. You couldn't have a generator for when the power goes out. So, of course, that would cost homeowners like $50,000 a year to change over to, electric heat. So this initiative is businesses, it's labor, it's a lot of different organizations coming together to get the legislature involved, because this is a really far progressive left policy of Governor Murphy's. He wants to be the California on the East Coast, but our energy grid can't sustain this. People can't afford this. This is really, really far off stuff.
Look at California. I mean, look how myopic Governor Newsom is and the rest of the idiots over there in California, where they're like, you know what, we need to get away from gas cars by 2035 and make sure everyone has an electric car. Oh, but by the way, you can't charge your car every day. Right. And again, that's the level of stupidity. And I don't mind saying it this harshly, by the left and all these climate hysterics about green energy and all this green nonsense. A power grid. Listen, California is very densely populated. It's not as densely populated as New Jersey. We're the most densely populated state in the country. What is it going to do to our power grid when the geniuses in Trenton think it's going to be a good idea to overflow it with electric cars, electric this? It's going to be a disaster.
The grid cannot sustain it. Yeah.
It's crazy to me. And it's like, it seems like, and again, you mentioned the governor talking about having, this desire to make New Jersey green and all that. The governor, and again, no, I'm not trying to throw paint with a broad brush about operatives or anything, Jeanette, but it seems like there's an operative a minute that's looking to milk anyone for money like Governor Murphy. Who in their right mind thinks that the governor is presidential material? He's letting his hair grow out. He's wearing jackets now more often with collared shirts. He's not wearing Skechers anymore. He's wearing shoes. I hate to break it to you folks on the left. Woodrow Wilson is still and is going to remain the only New Jerseyan ever to win the presidency. I don't know who got into Governor Murphy's ear, knowing that at a national stage, he's going to get roasted like a Thanksgiving turkey for his COVID policies, for the unaffordability of New Jersey, for people migrating. Like, who? I would love to talk to these operatives and say, I know marijuana's legal, but my God, what are you smoking? That's a serious hit.
Well, there's a lot of consultants that want to make some money out there on Governor Murphy. And listen, every Democrat from New Jersey thinks they can be president, and Republicans too. Look at Governor Christie. So I don't think this candidacy is going to get very far. He doesn't have a huge Democratic base in New Jersey. Environmentalists are mad at him. The unions are mad at him. The minority community is not thrilled with him. So I don't think that campaign's going to get off the ground very far.
I don't think so. And again, from what I can read here, I mean, Joe Biden's going to run for office again. He's going to run for re-election in 24. I don't believe he's going to be primaried. I don't think Spartacus, Senator Booker, is going to run in a primary. I don't think Phil Murphy's going to run in a primary. I think Sleepy Joe and Laughing Kamala are going to run for re-election. I hope they lose. I think they should lose. It all depends on who Republicans run. But again, is the governor maybe sort of cinching up for 2028 maybe, or I'm out of office in 25. I'm sorry, if he's out of office that long, I don't think people's collective memory is going to be that strong for Governor Murphy.
I don't think so, but he doesn't consult me on these matters, Fernando.
Yeah, I tell you right now, whoever those operatives are, boy, you boys and girls are milking them for money, boy. I'll tell you, because there's never been an easier grab for money than that, I have to say. Jeanette, before I let you go, again, I appreciate your time. I know you've had a busy day. I want you to get back to Josh and the kids, obviously, and I appreciate it. As we approach the midterms, we know Republicans have a really good shot here to win the House, really add a good amount of seats. I'm not sure about flipping the Senate. It looks really difficult on a national level, but I think that's the way. It's scary to me after that just horrendous speech by the president last week, where he was so divisive, to just not give Republicans the ammunition that they need. It's almost like they see the goal line and it's like they're Daniel Jones. They'll fumble it right there and then it'll go out of bounds or something. Republicans have a real chance here, but I'm really concerned they might fumble or get stopped at the goal line. Am I wrong?
Well, there's always concern, right? I mean, we don't want to rest on our laurels, and there's a lot of infighting among the party right now. But I think we really need to coalesce and, fight back against this Democratic administration that's really hurting our economy, hurting taxpayers, hurting working families. It's really the families that can't afford the inflation that's hurting the most.
You're absolutely right. Again, folks, she is Jeanette Hoffman, Republican strategist here on Real Talk. Jeanette, I want to thank you for coming on. I know you've had a busy day. I know we've been friends for years. I know you're a fan of my brand of opinion journalism. So I'm very grateful for our rapport and the fact that, again, you choose to take the time to come on this program. You believe in what I'm doing. And that means a lot because, again, there aren't any conservative journalists really talking about kitchen table issues. And I take pride in that. So I want to thank you for your time. I'll give you the last word here tonight.
Well, it's always great to come on your show, Fernando. I love talking to you. I love the great people at Jersey First. Keep up the good work. And hopefully we'll be back more in the fall to talk about the exciting races, and we'll have some positive news to tell.
I'll have you back after the election, and hopefully we're celebrating about a red House and maybe a red Senate. We'll see. Folks,
and the Cowboys win.
Oh, God, I hope the Cowboys can be at least competitive by Election Day. Jesus Christ, who knows? But, folks, she is Jeanette Hoffman, Republican strategist here in the Garden State, and a big fan of the show. Jeanette, God bless you. Give my best to Josh.
I will. He's about to walk in with the kids, so I got to jump.
maybe I'll see you two at the league, and God bless you both. And thank you for being a fan of Real Talk with Jersey First TV.
Thank you, Fernando. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Folks, great episode tonight here. Again, Jeanette Hoffman, a big fan of the show. And certainly a lot to unpack there with less than 2 months to go with this midterm election right upon us here. Republicans have a really, really good chance. It's a bad economy. Inflation is still high. Grocery shopping is still difficult. These are kitchen table issues that matter to everyday people, not climate hysteria. We're not going to be underwater anytime soon. Okay, Aquaman's not, applying for a job at the Postal Service because he's going to be the only one eligible or capable of delivering mail. No, that's not going to happen. Okay, woke nonsense like pronouns in bathrooms and, statues triggering people, or we need to erect statues for career criminals, right? Where that was the whole premise of the looting and rioting we saw 2 summers ago. But it's kitchen table issues, folks. That's what matters. And I'm the only journalist that's talking about it here in New Jersey, and I take pride in that. But before we call it a night, yes, folks, we're in that part of the program here where we get to announce, yes, this week's winner of the worst journalist in the Garden State. And of course, it should be to no one's surprise, it is someone once again working at Insider NJ. Yes, folks, well, I would argue, it's kind of a close race there because, NJ Spotlight News and the Star Ledger, and then, you got Insider coming up, right almost at the finish line. It's like they're kind of neck and neck there when it comes to bad journalism. And of course, when we talk about bad journalists, and again, let me just start off by saying, folks, that as we approach Hispanic Heritage Month, the idea that we shouldn't be honoring more Hispanic journalists, is something that I think is disgraceful. Okay? I had the chance to meet for the first time U.S. Representative Josh Gottheimer last Friday morning at a great restaurant, El Asadero Mexican Grill in Rochelle Park. A shout out to the good people there. Great staff there at El Asadero. Very different breakfast, very delicious breakfast. So I want to thank them for that. And I want to thank U.S. Representative Josh Gottheimer, certainly former Governor Jim McGreevey, and noted pastor and religious leader here in New Jersey, Bolivar Flores, for hosting the event. And folks, I could not have been more honored. And I'm not the most humble person, but I felt deeply humbled to be there, sitting next to so many talented journalists, both in the English community and in the Spanish community. All right, especially as we approach Hispanic Heritage Month, especially since we're realizing that New Jersey and the country isn't getting whiter, isn't getting blacker, it's getting browner, right, with Hispanics. We see it with the census numbers. And especially here in New Jersey, folks, in the liberal media cesspool, establishment, that we're not giving more credit to Hispanic journalists, I think it's disgraceful. And when the office of Congressman Josh Gottheimer puts out press releases, or other people send press releases to be published, and news sites don't want to publish them because of some vindictiveness, some perhaps jealousy, or just being children, okay, acting like adolescents, you should be ashamed of yourselves. You know who you are. I don't want to really mention you by name. Because I'll mention someone else by name in a minute. But you should be ashamed of yourselves. Those at Insider NJ, those at NJ Spotlight News, those at NJ.com, those at the Star Ledger, okay, NorthJersey.com. You should be publishing stuff like this all the time to feature prominent Hispanics. Not because it's me, folks. Don't get it twisted. You might think, Fernando's just being self-serving because he got an award. No. It's not about that. Colo suave, okay? Don't get it twisted. Tranquilízate, okay? Even if I hadn't won anything, I'd still be complaining about, because this demographic, this group, this community of Hispanic, again, whether you lean right or left, that's inconsequential to me, because I'm pretty sure the journalists I sat next to watch my brand. I may not always agree with what I have to say, but they're there, and we're in the struggle together. And to not acknowledge Hispanic journalists, regardless if they're on the right or the left, you're doing a disservice to New Jerseyans. But again, what else is new when it comes to garbage news sites like the ones I just mentioned? Okay, so again, when you have journalists out there peddling hysteria, whether it's about climate hysteria or kissing the rear end of the president with arguably the most divisive speech in the history that I can remember in my adult life of a U.S. president, like we saw last week with Sleepy Joe. Yeah, keep peddling your nonsense, because you know why? Yeah, because I'm winning awards. You can stay over there being mediocre, being trash, being garbage. I'm over here exemplifying greatness. I'm over here exemplifying the standard of journalism in New Jersey. I'm here winning awards. We're not the same. And speaking of garbage journalism, folks, do I even have to say it? Of course. We always can rely on Alan Steinberg from Insider NJ. And here's a piece of his that I'll tell you something. I can almost, I don't want to imagine the visual because, he's 90-something years old. But, the idea that, Alan Steinberg probably blew a load on his pants last Thursday night watching the speech by the president. This is really, really funny. Resurgence of Biden and Dems and independent voters is an ominous development for Kane Jr., right? So this is really funny. Check out Alan and the first sentence here. This is hysterical. I mean, Jesus, talk about delusional and just, wow, you're declining, Al. I'll tell you. If President Joe Biden was a financial investment, he would be the hottest stock on Wall Street. Investment advisors would be advocating that you buy shares in Biden America long. Yesterday's Quinnipiac poll, which again is probably more, I don't know what's more unreliable, Quinnipiac polls or Allen's New York Mets in October when it really counts, reported that Americans give President Biden a 40 to 50% job approval compared to the negative 31 to 60% job approval rating they received in July. This is an increase of 9 points. Oh my God. Blow a load right now, folks. Let's have a party in our pants. About 9 points. The Biden resurgence was first reported last week in the Gallup poll. It's reported an increase in Biden's approval rating of 6 points from 38% to 44%, but the underlying Gallup news regarding independent voters was even more favorable to Biden and the Democrats. Again, I'm not going to read you the rest of this garbage because, I don't want to put you to sleep. I want to get traffic here. But of course, here's something here that really, really caught my eye. When the election was originally defined as a mandate on Biden's handling of the inflation issue, independent voters displayed a strong Republican trend. As shown by recent national polls, Biden and the Democrats have succeeded beyond all expectations in redefining the election as one whose prime issues are abortion and the threat to democracy. Folks, again, this is all Alan Steinberg lives on. Sleepy Al lives on this premise that democracy, first of all, Al, I know you're 90-some years old, but you passed U.S. history, right? You took a history course, right? We're a constitutional republic, right? Did you fall asleep during history class? I can send you one of the books. If you need a U.S. history, because I teach U.S. history, Al, if you need a history book, I can mail you one in Highland Park. In between your naps, if you want to learn about U.S. history, yeah, you can learn about the fact that we're a constitutional republic. Keep throwing out these words like democracy is in jeopardy. No, democracy is not in jeopardy, Al. As much as you want it to be. Okay? And the same thing with abortion. Again, it's a state's issue now. Here in New Jersey, we've codified it. Okay? Governor Murphy and the Democrats in the legislature have codified reproductive rights. So, again, a woman who's looking to terminate her pregnancy and reconsider it has every means possible at her disposal. Okay? Not just Trenton, but Washington sends millions of dollars to these left-wing organizations like Planned Parenthood that make all these clinics available. Okay? And yet Planned Parenthood still has the audacity to send cards to my house asking me for donations. Are you crazy? My tax dollars go to fund you and subsidize. You think I want to give you an extra nickel of my hard-earned money? Screw you. Okay? And then secondly, whether it's a woman, reconsidering her pregnancy, or again, it's after Labor Day. So maybe, single girl summer is over. But for all the ladies out there that maybe make some questionable decisions on the weekend with alcohol and they wake up Monday morning and they need a plan B, well, guess what? They're accessible too. Okay? There's no worry here in New Jersey. I get it. You want to, Ali Steinberg and all these insufferable feminists and cat ladies that stink of cat piss, right? That mobilize and have all these marches and everything. They're bitching and moaning about not being able to terminate pregnancies in states that they don't live in. I get it. You're not a fan of what's going on in Alabama or Kentucky. Hey, let them govern the way they want. You think that people in Kentucky and Texas and Florida, Alabama, Mississippi care that here in New Jersey we coddle illegals? That we have the highest property tax in the country? That we spend like drunken sailors? No disrespect to sailors. They're very admirable men and women serving in the United States Navy. But you get the point. But this is the nonsense that Sleepy Al likes to peddle. Again, and it's funny, like I can almost imagine Ali Steinberg in his house writing some of these articles that he does, these garbage columns, and he's sitting there trying to see what nonsense can I peddle today. Well, folks, again, being your favorite journalist, I can get exclusives like anybody. And here's exclusive footage of Ali Steinberg when he's at home, when he's doing work. Yes. Don't tell me how I got this footage. Hey, a good journalist never rules his sources. But yes, folks, you can imagine there's Sleepy Al probably at his desk at home thinking about, what hysteria can I peddle next? What left-wing nonsense and dribble can I espouse in my columns? Yes, folks, you think about bad journalism, you think about irresponsible journalism and left-wing activism, you go rely on Sleepy Al. And again, what's funny about Sleepy Al, Al, listen, stop being passive aggressive. I don't have any qualms about naming you personally and how despicable you've become. And you know what? Speaking of despicable, what's interesting? You like to be very sanctimonious and self-righteous about, what type of Republican you used to be, or Republicans that you, I don't know, maybe hold in high regard. Folks, yesterday was the 21st anniversary of 9/11. Okay? And that to me is a sensitive part of my adult life, living through that. It feels like yesterday. It never gets easier having to relive those things. Okay? But when Sleepy Al was working for the EPA in the mid-2000s, okay, and I'm sure now as he's a journalist and he likes to rail against people, right? He likes to prop up certain Republicans that suit his narrative. Hey, Al, why didn't you ever, I don't know, maybe condemn Christine Todd Whitman, the former governor, the director of the EPA? Okay, yes, this despicable woman who on 9/11, the days after September 11th, told people that the air quality in Ground Zero was fine. And men and women went in there to search for bodies, to search for loved ones. EMTs, fire, first responders, police went in there. And as a result of your irresponsibility, Christine Whitman, they suffered debilitating pulmonary disease. Some died from cancer in their lungs and from breathing in that air. And it took you 5 years, you despicable woman, to apologize and say, oh, by the way, maybe I shouldn't have told people the air quality was good. Yeah, you know what, Al? Why don't you ever crucify Christine Whitman for sending people to their deaths, for Christine Whitman murdering people, okay? For Christine Whitman murdering hundreds of people in the days after 9/11. Why don't you ever get sanctimonious about that, Allie? Oh, of course not. It's easier for you to blow a load on yourself about your pathetic New York Mets that you know are never going to win anything in October, and your pathetic Brooklyn Nets are never going to win anything in June. But you'd rather be sanctimonious about that. You'd rather fill your Twitter feed with like your, 25 followers about nonsense that you're peddling. Whether it's sticking your nose so far up the president's, rectum that you could probably, look at his intestinal tract, to propping up people like Christy Whitman and Andrew Yang. You should be ashamed of yourself. And you know what, Maxie, Twinkle Toes over there, the publisher, the editor on Insider NJ, you should be ashamed too, because you haven't had a sit down or an intervention with Sleepy Al to tell him to stop publishing this garbage as we approach the midterm cycle. Again, Al, you're pretty despicable. Why don't you ever talk about Christy Whitman, a despicable, vile woman who killed people? The days after 9/11, 21 years ago, she told men and women, yes, the air is safe to breathe. And guess what? She sent them to their death. There are families without their fathers and their mothers and their sons and their daughters because Christy Whitman was irresponsible. Do you ever care to talk about that, Allie? No, you'd rather be sanctimonious and blow a blood vessel about the threat to democracy. Where was your outrage when people were honoring a career criminal like George Floyd and were looting and burning cities in 2020 during the summer and the fall? Where was your outrage then? Oh, no, because you want to be woke. You want to make sure you're in, with the black folk and all the down people. You know what I'm saying? During that election cycle, make sure that, you get your street cred. They were laughing at you, Allie, just like I'm laughing at you today. You become pretty despicable, Alan. And I don't mind saying it on the air. And if you had any guts, you come on this show. But here's a spoiler, folks. He won't do it. He'd rather sit there, like you see him sitting there right there, in his clown outfit, because that's what Alan Steinberg's become, a clown. Okay? He'd rather sit there in his office at home, write up the next gibberish of a column. You should know better, Al. Especially after even yesterday. You should be prompted today to write a column about Christy Whitman. You should have done it years ago. But again, you work for the EPA. You're living at home, all comfortable with your pension. So why rock the boat? You got your pension. You work for the EPA. Probably a do-nothing, paper-pushing, apple-picking job at the EPA, which I would not doubt when it comes to you. All right? But hey, if you can sleep well at night, God bless you. But there are a lot of people that don't sleep well at night anymore, folks. Like those parents, like those mothers, those fathers, those brothers and sisters who lost people 21 years ago because Christy Whitman was irresponsible. And you think someone like Alan Steinberg will call her out? Of course not. Think Alan Steinberg will call out someone like Liz Cheney, another vile, despicable woman that he loves to idolize? Yeah. Why don't you ever talk about Liz Cheney's father who lied us into a war that killed hundreds of thousands of American soldiers? Why don't you ever talk about that, Allie? But no, Ali would rather virtue signal about climate hysteria. Oh my God, about democracy. Oh my God, democracy's in trouble. Oh my God, Alan Steinberg, whatever will he do? Whatever will he write about if democracy's not in trouble? Folks, clown show. Whenever you read a column from Alan Steinberg, that's what you're getting. Prop up the circus music. I thought the circus wasn't touring anymore. Apparently not. It's alive and well in New Jersey, led by, right there, Ali Steinberg from Insider NJ. And of course, folks, when it comes to Ali Steinberg, Maxie Twinkle Toes, we all know we can rely on bad journalism from Insider NJ. You should all know better, folks, but you're making money, so what do you care? And that's our show for this week. Once again, I want to thank prominent Republican strategist Jeanette Hoffman for her appearance tonight. Again, she's a great lady. Shout out to her husband and shout out to her family. God bless y'all. And thank you again, Jeanette, for coming on the show here. Folks, you can always check out all my episodes at www.jerseyfirst.org/TV/Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. And certainly make sure you like Jersey First TV on Facebook, as well as follow it on Instagram and Twitter. Check out my own Instagram and Twitter. It's the same handle, at the Fernando Zone. And also make sure you like Fernando Uribe on Facebook. I'm the handsome guy with the, that beautiful headshot. Again, shout out to my Jersey First boss, President and CEO Rosemary Becky, for that great headshot. And certainly you can make sure you like not just my page on Facebook, but also like Real Talk as well. Check out the Jersey First YouTube page, and also check out the Jersey First TV LinkedIn and my own LinkedIn, as well as episodes are streaming there also. Folks, always remember, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Real Talk right here with Jersey First TV. I am New Jersey's premier and now 7-time, yes, 7, get it right, folks, 7-time award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine for 2020, 2021, and now in 2022, and New Jersey's most beloved Hispanic conservative, yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe, saying so long, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week here live on Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time as New Jersey State Senator Vin Capal joins us live here on Real Talk. Folks, in the meantime, stay safe. Please party responsibly. As always, thank you so much for watching.